Hello everyone, I hope you all stay safe and healthy. In today's occasion, we are from Group 6. Would like to present our result on analyzing the poem The Soldier by Rupert Brooke. And before we begin, I would like to introduce our group members first. The first one is me, Gania Iswari with student ID 90. The second one is Rima Undari Dewi with student ID 92. The third is Diah Prabandari with student ID 103. The next is Wan Angelica Agustina with student ID 104. And last is Rima Agustina Dwiningtyas with student ID 109. Our analysis consists of poetic line, figure of speech, stanza break, rhyme structure, consonants and assonance, and last is value and comparison to nowadays era. But before we begin, allow me to read the poem first. The Soldier by Rupert Brooke. If I should die, think only this of me, that there is some corner of a foreign field that is forever England. There shall be in that rich earth a richer dust concealed, a dust whom England bore, shaped, made aware, gave once her flowers to love, her ways to roam, a body of England's breathing English air, washed by the rivers, blessed by sounds of home. And think, this hurt all evil shed away, a pulse in the eternal mind no less, give somewhere back the thoughts by England given, her sights and sounds, dreams happy as her day, and laughter, learned of friends and gentleness, in hearts at peace, under an English heaven. So without further ado, let's begin with the first topic, which is poetic line that will be presented by Undari. So Undari, time is yours.
Okay, now I will explain about the poetic lines in the poem The Soldier by Rupert Brooke. So, a line is a subdivision of a poem. It's specifically a group of words that are arranged into a row that ends for a reason. This reason could be that the lines are arranged to have a certain number of syllables, or to have certain number of stresses, or of metrical fit, which means they could be arranged so that they can rhyme, whether they be of equal length or not. In this poem, we found out that the line breaks are arranged to have certain number of syllables, then some parts are arranged to get stressed, and also arranged in metrical form so that they can rhyme with the next lines. So for the deeper explanation, let's jump ahead to the next part. So for the first until third line in this poem, the meaning is, if I died in a war, I wanted to be remembered. Think about the land in faraway land where I would die. That land would be a small piece of England forever. So the third line here is being split in order to recognize the meaning, and the continuation is on the next part, as you can see later. We will also see that in the third line, there's a pause after the word England. This pause means to give stress to the word England and impresses the significance of the soldier's home nation, which is England. And next is the third line until the sixth line. The meaning of those lines is, the northern land indeed will keep my dead body, and also will enrich my body. This is because my body was made, shaped, and awakened by England. England gave me thoughts of how to love and also freedom to live. And next is the seventh until eighth lines. So the meaning of these lines is, this body belongs to England. Thus, this body breathes the English air, cleansed by the English river, and blessed by the sun of English. Then next is the 9th until 11th lines. So the meaning of these lines is, and think about how the soul encountered death and becomes pure. It will release all the beautiful thoughts and meaningful values given by England. They aren't erased, instead, they become immortal. And last is the 12 until 14 lines. So the meaning of these lines is, I'll return the sights and the sounds of England. The sights will return to the dreams that were as happy as England's daytime, whereas the sounds will return to the laughter of English friends. England's gentleness will return to the English minds and spirits, which lives peacefully under the English sky.
Thank you, Undari, for the explanation. And the next topic, which is figure of speech, will be presented by me. Figure of speech is a word or phrase that possesses a separate meaning from its literal definition. In line 3 and 4, that is forever England. There shall be, in that rich north, a richer dust concealed. The figure of speech in these lines is metaphor. Metaphor is figure of speech which makes a comparison between two unlike things or ideas. The author imagines about his dead body which was killed on the battlefield will enrich the surrounding land with a richer dust. These lines imply that Englishness is very precious, that the author imagines it will be absorbed by the foreign field and make the field more spiritually valuable. In the line 5 and 6, a dust whom England bore, shaped, made aware, gave once her flowers to love, her ways to roam. The figure of speech in these lines is personification. Personification is figure of speech which gives human qualities to non-living things or ideas. The author always refers England with female pronoun her. Also, the word England always indicates the acts of human, like how England bore or gave birth to him, shaped him, awakened conscience in him, taught him love, and gave him freedom in living. Therefore, England implies a figure of mother to him. In the lines 7 and 8, a body of England's breathing English air, washed by the rivers, blessed by sons of home. The figure of speech in the line 7 and 8 is metaphor. The author implies that England has godlike power as it gives him life and blessing. His body and soul are cleansed by the river or holy water, just like one of the Christians' beliefs, baptism. In the line 9 until 11, and think, this hurt of evil shed away, a pulse in the eternal mind, no less, give somewhere back the thoughts by England given. In the line 9 until 11 is personification. England seems to have mind without evil as it grants him thoughts. It can be seen from the thoughts by England given. Just as human has both bodies and minds, England also have both physical features and spiritual features which shown by eternal mind. And lastly, in the line 10 and 11, a pulse in the eternal mind no less, gives somewhere back the thoughts by England given. The figure of speech in these lines is metaphor. The author seems to have a picture of what will happen to his consciousness of Englishness after he died. He seems to believe that he will only exist as a pulse in the eternal mind and he will return all of his thoughts to where they came from, which is England. The author compares England as origin place to eternal mind and his own soul to a pulse. And the next two topics, which are stanza break and rhyme structure, will be presented by Rima. So Rima, the stage is yours.
Alright, thank you Gania, but before we jump to the stanza break, let me explain what is stanza. A stanza is a group of lines within a poem. The blank line between stanzas is what we call as a stanza break. There is no set length to a stanza or an insistence that all stanzas within a poem need to be the same length. It depends on the poet itself to make how many stanzas in their poem. And in the poem The Soldier, there are two stanzas. The first one is from the 1st until 8th lines, and the second one is from the 9th until 14th lines. And thus, this poem only has one stanza break. Let's move to the next material, which is rhyme structure. Rhyme is the repetitions of syllables that usually happens in the end or last of lines. Rhymes words share the same sound as the word's last stressed syllables. There are 3 rhyme structures in the poem The Soldier by Rupert Brooke. Start with the lines first until 4th line, which has ABAB rhyme structure. The rhyme on the first line and 3rd line can be found on the last word from the me and be. Not only the same A words, but also the pronunciation of me and be are identical to each other as it sounds like E. While the 2nd and 4th lines can be found on the word filled and concealed, which has the same sounds like ill as in their last words. And we move to the lines 5th until 8th, which has CD. The rhyme on the 5th line and 7th line can be found on the word aware and air. They both have the same sounds as air on their last word. The 6th and 8th lines are both ended with the rhymes of om from the word roam and home. And last lines is 9 until 14, EFG rhyme structure. Unlike the previous lines that have rhymes separated in only one line, lines 9 until 14 are separated with 2 lines. The 9th line rhymes with the 12th line from away and day, with the same sounds A on their last word. And the 10th line rhymes with the 13th line from less and gentleness, which end both as in the word as. And the 11th line rhymes with the 14th line from the word given and heaven, both ended with the un as their last words.
Thank you, Rima, for the explanation. And the next topics, consonants and assonants and also meaning, will be presented by Wan Angelica. So Wan Angelica, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Gania, for your opportunity. So in this part, I will be explaining about the consonants and assonants of the poetry. But before we jump to the analysis, I would like first to explain a bit shorter about what is the difference between assonants and consonants. Okay, so first, assonance is the repetitions of the vowel sound of the poetry, but consonants is the repetitions of the consonant sound of the poetry. Okay, so I will be started with the consonant sound of this poetry. The first, we have the th sound, as in, if I should die, think only this of me. And then we have the d sound, that is for England, there shall be. We have another consonant such as r sound, as in that there is some corner of a foreign field, and then in that which north a richer does conceal. And then we also have the h sound, give once, her flowers to love, her ways to roam. And then we also have the sound, as in a body of England, breathing English air. And then we have the b sound, washed by the rivers, blessed by sons of home. Okay, now we move to the assonant sound of this poetry. First, we have the E sound. If I should die, think only this of me. And then we also have in that which north a richer does concealed. And then we also have the I sound. If I should die, think only this of me. And then we also have the A sound. A dust whom England bore, shape mad aware. That's all for the analysis of the consonants and assonants. So now we move to the meaning of this poetry. Okay, so basically this poetry is about a patriotic poetry who talks about a soldier who was willing to sacrifice his life for his beloved country, England, as a soldier. This poetry shows us about how the soldier loves and praises his beloved country for its beauty, which it can be seen on the phrases of preacher dust on the fourth line as it refers to his superior body when he dies. And it can also be seen of the fifth line that his body is built and shaped by England. He claimed himself at the eighth line of the first stanza that his death is a sacred and holy thing, as it can be seen that his body is washed by the river when he dies. On the second stanza, he states that he will be transformed into an eternal spirit, and he will give his soul back to the England because England has given him so much happiness in his life. Okay, I think that's all for the assonance and consonants, also the meaning of the poetry. I will give the time back to the moderator. Thank you, Gania.
Thank you, Angelica, for the explanation. And the next topics, value and comparison to nowadays era, will be presented by Diah Prabandari. So Diah, time is yours.
Okay, for the last one, we are going to talk about the values and comparison in today's life in the Soldier's poem. Rupert Brooke's poem, The Soldiers, contains a high value of patriotism. This poem conveys the values of love and loyalty to the land of England, felt by the characters in the poem as one of the soldiers who fighting on the battlefield. Love takes so many forms, and so does this one. Love can be described for partners, for children, for hobbies, jobs. There's also love described for the country. This love refers to the feeling, soul, the spirit of soldiers to fight for his land, how they stand for his country without caring about himself. It's unstoppable like a mother's love for her child. And his loyalty can be described in their sacrifices. How can they even want to be a dust to fight for his land? How they ignore their love, their family, their self only for the future of their country. Each stanza in the poem are very clearly describe the character's love for England, especially in the second stanza, which states that the character even be happy and welcome the day when he will meet and love with his friends in heaven, where the heaven is in the land he's fighting for, England. He seemed to be marched into dust with the country he was fighting for. In the first stanza, the aesthetic value of the choice of word and the meaning to be conveyed is very pronounced. It can be seen how implicitly the character conveys that he seems to be at one with English nature, blessed and freed from all burdens in life. These patriotic values encourage the spirit of the fighters to win the war and raise the name and status of England. If we relate it into today's life, of course, important values such as patriotism and defending the country are very much needed, especially for the younger generation. However, what happens in reality, it seems the opposite. We can see in our country, for example, that the values of patriotism seems to have been eroded. People today seems foreign to their own country. People today are very individualistic and think independence is the culmination of everything. Nothing else needs to be done. In fact, many people out there do not realize that the current and future challenges will be even more difficult. We are actually war in the silence. Perhaps it's reasonable because the current war is not a blatant war that risks our life to defend the country. But the current war seems unreal. Even though the war right now even more terrifying, we are no longer dealing with weapons, but with an infinite number of human brains. Countries compete with each other with their technology and modernizations, dropping an aiding score and strengths, leaving a small country lagging in the strength and readiness. Of course, these challenges is more complicated and bigger, but even to cultivate a sense of love for homeland is very difficult. Therefore, The attitude of patriotism is very necessary and needs to be implemented in the present and of course in the future. As a young generations, our love for our nation needs to be increased, considering that we are the ones who continue the struggles of our nations in the future. The values in the poem The Soldier, how the characters love and respect his country more than himself, is very exemplary and appreciated as a very beautiful literary work.
Thank you, Diah, for the explanation. And that brings us to the end of our explanation. We would like to say thank you for all of your attention and apologize for the mistakes we made. Thank you and see you later.